Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Don't forget to subscribe and tell us in the comments. What's the one moment that changed everything for you? Part 1. The ring hit the table like a verdict. The music stopped, at least for me. She didn't notice I was there. Not at first. She was too busy pretending I didn't exist, like she used to with telemarketers and the neighbor's barking dog. Only this time, I was the background noise in her love story. Her hand rested lightly on his. That casual kind of touch that only comes after practice. Familiar, confident, intimate. She leaned in and whispered something I couldn't hear, but the way his eyes sparkled told me everything I didn't want to know. I didn't storm in. I didn't shout. I just walked across that bar floor with water soaking through my socks because I forgot my umbrella again, and apparently my dignity too. They were in our booth. The one under the crooked wall lamp. The one where she once cried into my chest about losing her job. The same booth where I told her I wanted to grow old with her. Ironic how small a place can feel once your world collapses inside it. I reached their table. She looked up. Her smile died instantly. Her mouth opened. Not a word came out. I didn't give her the chance. I slid the wedding ring from my finger, slow, deliberate, like peeling off the last layer of denial. I placed it gently between their drinks. It spun once on the lacquered wood before settling. I didn't wait to see if she picked it up. He tried to speak, some smug, rehearsed line, but I didn't even glance at him. Not once. Not ever again. I turned and walked back out into the cold, leaving behind the smell of cheap perfume, betrayal, and 2 untouched cocktails. That ring didn't just mark the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of something much darker. I wasn't even sure my legs were moving. My brain had shut down somewhere between the ring leaving my hand and the sound of it settling on the wood. It echoed in my skull like a judge's gavel. I didn't remember opening the door to the bar or how I ended up on the sidewalk outside. All I could hear was the sudden, brutal silence. Even the rain felt fake, like background noise in a film I didn't want to watch anymore. I walked aimlessly, past the parked cars, past the blinking sign that read, "Half-price appetizers tonight," past a couple arguing under a flickering streetlight like nothing in the world had just collapsed. My fingertips were numb, my breath shallow. The cold wasn't helping, but at least it made the ache real. At least it made something feel deserved. I didn't know where I was going. Home didn't feel like home anymore. That place had pillows she picked out and curtains she argued about and mugs with little heart-shaped handles she said were cheesy, but cute. I didn't want to see any of it. I didn't want to see her in any of it. And yet, I had nowhere else to go. But then I heard it. Her voice. Calling my name. Mira. She had followed me out. Of course she did. That's what she always did. Chase me once the damage was done, like some emotional cleanup crew. She had that breathless voice, like she was about to cry, like she couldn't believe what just happened, like I had somehow surprised her by reacting to her betrayal. Carlton, wait. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. If I looked at her face, I'd see the lips that kissed him, the smile that wasn't mine anymore, the eyes that lied to me in my own kitchen. She grabbed my arm. I stopped, not because I wanted to, but because I physically couldn't move forward with her hand on me. I didn't mean for you to find out like that, she whispered, drenched now, shivering, as if we were 2 characters in some tragic love story. I laughed. A short, bitter sound, something between a scoff and a gasp for air. Like what? I said, still not facing her. Sitting in our booth, holding his hand, laughing like you remembered how to? She didn't speak right away, and that silence told me more than anything she could have said. You haven't looked at me like that in months, she finally said. And he noticed me. There it was. That line. The one you read about. The one that makes your stomach turn, even though you saw it coming. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. That version of me had died 5 minutes ago inside the bar. You wore the red sweater, I said. The one I bought for you. She didn't respond. I don't want an explanation, I added after a moment. Because no matter what story you spin, it ends the same way. You were already gone before I walked in. I just didn't know it yet. I pulled my arm free. She let me go, and I walked away again. This time slower, without purpose, without a plan. Just a man in the rain, ringless, directionless, and suddenly aware that the person he shared his life with had quietly rewritten the ending of their story without telling him. What I didn't know was that the next place I'd end up would show me even more than she ever did. Because heartbreak doesn't just haunt you. It follows you home. The rain had stopped by the time I reached the house, but I didn't notice. My clothes clung to me like guilt. My shoes left a trail of muddy prints up the steps. I fumbled with the keys longer than I should have. It felt wrong even entering through the front door, like I was breaking into someone else's life. A stranger's home. A stranger's marriage. The lights were still off. The silence was brutal. I walked straight past the mirror in the hallway without looking at myself. I didn't want to see my face, not like this. Not with my ring finger bare, and my heart somewhere back on the sidewalk outside Brady's. My hand reached out and instinctively flicked the hallway light switch. That's when I saw it. A picture frame. Cracked. Sitting at the bottom of the stairs like it had been knocked off the wall in a hurry. It was the photo from our 5th anniversary, the one where she kissed my cheek while I held up the giant pizza box with "Forever" written in pepperoni. I stared at the fractured glass slicing through her smile. Some part of me hoped it had fallen by accident. But another part of me, the part one was trying not to listen to, whispered that it had been deliberate, like she couldn't bear to look at it anymore, like she was erasing me, one memory at a time. I should have gone to bed. I should have cried or screamed or broken something. But instead, I did what people like me do. I cleaned. I swept up the glass like I was trying to make sense of something sharp and senseless. And while I was doing that, I noticed something wedged behind the shoe rack. An envelope. Cream-colored. Unsealed. With my name scrawled across the front in her handwriting. I don't know how long I stood there staring at it. Part of me thought it might be a goodbye letter. Some pre-written explanation meant for another day. A confession, maybe. Something about that envelope felt premeditated. Like she'd planned this long before I found her with him. I took it to the kitchen and sat down at the table. The same table where we used to play cards and argue about whose turn it was to buy toilet paper. My hands shook as I unfolded the note inside. But it wasn't a letter. It was a reservation printout. 2 names, Miranda Denslow and Owen Vicks. 1 room, Hotel Bellwood. Check-in, tomorrow night. 2 guests. 1 bed. I stared at it for so long that the letters began to blur. There was no denying it anymore. She hadn't just slipped. She wasn't just confused, or lonely, or tempted. This was planned. Deliberate. I wasn't dealing with a mistake. I was dealing with a replacement. And then, something strange happened. I laughed again. Not the same kind of laugh as before. This one was bitter, deeper. The kind of laugh that sounds like choking. The kind that makes your chest hurt more than your stomach. She had already packed some of her things. Her overnight bag was missing. The blue one with the stitched initials. I hadn't even noticed. That's how blind I'd been. I thought catching her at the bar would be the end of it. But it was only the opening act. Because the next morning, someone unexpected showed up at my front door, and they knew everything. I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with that hotel reservation staring up at me like it had something left to say. My coffee went cold 3 times. I reheated it twice, then gave up. The rain had dried, but the silence in the house still felt wet and heavy, like something rotting just beneath the drywall. Every creak in the floorboards felt exaggerated. Every ticking second from the wall clock echoed like a countdown to something I couldn't see coming. I didn't expect anyone the next morning. Mira usually left early on Fridays, claiming she needed to prep reports at the office, which I now realized meant, leave before you wake up so I can text him from the car. I should have seen the signs. I should have known. I hate that phrase. Should have known. It implies you had the tools to see the future, but ignored the warnings because you wanted to believe you were safe. The knock at the door came at exactly 8:03 a.m. It wasn't aggressive, just 2 sharp raps. Then silence. For a moment, I stayed frozen. My body didn't want to answer it. My mind had already invented scenarios. Maybe she forgot something and came back. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was a delivery, or worse, a neighbor who saw me stumbling home the night before like a soaked ghost. But when I finally opened it, I did not expect to see her. "Hey," the woman said. She looked to be in her early 40s. Blonde hair pulled into a tight ponytail, suit jacket draped over one arm, and that strange energy of someone who's already 3 steps ahead in a conversation you haven't had yet. "Are you Carlton?" I hesitated. "Yeah. Can I help you?" She handed me a card. Vanessa Bray, Private Investigations. Infidelity, surveillance, legal documentation. My blood went cold. For a second, I thought maybe Mira had hired her. Maybe this was some kind of retaliation or twisted trick to make me doubt myself. But then Vanessa stepped forward, lowered her voice, and said something I'll never forget. "I've been looking for you. I was hired to investigate him." Owen Vicks. She said his name like it was a curse, like she'd said it 100 times and still couldn't scrape the taste of it off her tongue. I didn't respond. I was too stunned. She continued. Not by your wife, she added. By someone else. Owen has a history, and it's uglier than just affairs. I stepped aside without saying a word. Let her in. She walked like someone who'd done this before, like someone who knew the layout of betrayal in any household. She sat down at the kitchen table like it was hers and pulled out a folder. Photos, documents, receipts. She spread them out across the table like a puzzle I didn't know I'd already been living in. There were photos of Owen with Mira, yes, but there were also other women. At least 3, maybe 4. Always the same patterns. Different cities, different bars, same exact gestures, same moves, same smile. One woman had filed harassment charges that never went through. Another had gone missing for weeks after ending things with him. My mouth was dry. Vanessa tapped a photo of Mira getting into a car with Owen, a photo taken a week ago. She's not the first, she said, and I don't think she'll be the last. But if she checked into that hotel tonight, I needed someone to warn her. That's why I came. I stared at the photo again. Mira was smiling in it, happy, carefree, and walking directly into the arms of someone far more dangerous than I ever imagined. I should have hated her. I wanted to hate her. But what I felt instead was something far more twisted. Fear. Because now it wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about whether I was going to sit here, let it happen, and watch someone I used to love get destroyed by someone worse than her worst mistake. And even though she had broken me, I wasn't ready to let someone else finish the job. I didn't know how long I stood there, staring at the spread of evidence Vanessa laid out on my kitchen table, photos of Mira walking into bars, sitting close to Owen, smiling like she hadn't smiled at me in months. Every image felt like a punch that didn't leave bruises, just hollowness. But the ones that really haunted me weren't of her. They were the other women. The ones I'd never met, never heard of, yet could recognize by the same look of adoration in their eyes. The same look I used to wear before reality unraveled everything. I didn't know Mira anything. That was the thought that kept circling in my head. I didn't know her protection. I didn't know her sympathy. She had already packed her bag, already booked a room with another man, already left me in every way but legally. I should have let her fall, let her make her choices and face the consequences. But something about the way Vanessa spoke, the calm urgency in her voice, the precision with which she explained Owen's past, made it impossible to sit still. He was more than a serial adulterer. He was a manipulator, a man who left wreckage wherever he went. And Mira, for all her betrayal, had no idea what kind of fire she was playing with. I can't legally intervene, Vanessa said, sliding her folder closed. But if she's checking in tonight, and if she's with him, someone has to be there, just to make sure she gets out. Why me? I asked. Why not one of those other women? Why not the police? She gave me a look I wasn't prepared for. Because you're the only person she might still listen to. That line haunted me for the rest of the day. I sat on the couch for hours after Vanessa left, turning that sentence over and over in my head. The only person she might still listen to. It made me feel pathetic. It made me feel needed. It made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been invisible this entire time. By 7:15 p.m., I was sitting in my car outside Hotel Bellwood. I hadn't planned what I'd say. I wasn't even sure I'd go in. But I couldn't shake the image of Mira laughing in that bar, smiling in those photos, walking blindly into something that went beyond a broken marriage. I wanted to believe that deep down, behind the selfish choices and careless lies, she was still the woman who used to hold my hand in the grocery store for no reason. The woman who once cried when I bought her a Christmas tree 2 weeks early just because she'd had a bad day. But as I watched her step out of a rideshare in front of the hotel, same red sweater, same overnight bag, something inside me shifted again. She didn't look scared. She looked excited. Owen followed behind her, confident, casual, with that same smug expression I'd seen when I confronted them at the bar. They disappeared through the sliding glass doors like they were walking into a honeymoon, not a trap. And still, I couldn't move. Not until 20 minutes later, when I saw Mira come back out, alone. She lit a cigarette. She never smoked. At least, not that I knew of. And then she took out her phone and started pacing the sidewalk in heels that looked too painful for pacing. Her expression had changed. Whatever shine was in her eyes before, it was gone. I rolled down my window just enough to hear her voice when she finally made the call. "I don't feel safe," she whispered into the phone. "He's acting weird. He won't let me leave the room." I locked myself in the bathroom. And just like that, I was out of the car, moving faster than my brain could keep up. The hotel security wouldn't let me pass the lobby at first. I didn't have a reservation. I wasn't a guest. I didn't look the part. Hair a mess, shirt wrinkled, heart thudding against my ribs like a siren. But I found a way, because sometimes desperation doesn't need a key card. And when I finally reached the hallway outside room 406, I heard something that made my blood run cold. Her voice, and his, arguing. Something hit the wall, and I realized this wasn't about love anymore. It was about survival. I stood outside room 406, every muscle in my body frozen except for my hand clenched into a fist. The corridor was dead silent, but inside that room, something was unraveling. Myra's voice, sharp, pleading, clipped by fear. Owen's voice, colder than it had been at the bar, louder now, with no smile behind it. I couldn't hear words anymore. Just tone. Just volume. Just the unmistakable sound of something going horribly wrong. I had no plan. No backup. No weapon. No excuse to be there other than the fact that I'd once loved the woman on the other side of that door, and maybe some piece of me still did. Even after she betrayed me. Even after she made me feel invisible. Even after I left my ring on a table between her and another man. I raised my hand to knock. Then paused. What if this was a mistake? What if I barged in and made things worse? What if I walked into something I couldn't unsee? And then I heard it. Something that cut through all the doubt. A muffled scream. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't exaggerated. It was short, startled, and real. I didn't think after that. I just moved. I knocked once. Hard. And then again. Louder. Pounding until the door rattled on its hinges. "Mira," I shouted, not caring who heard me. "Open the door." Silence. Then footsteps. Then nothing. I stepped back, heart pounding, ready to break the door down if I had to. But then it opened. Not wide. Just enough for a sliver of Myra's face to show. Her eyes were glassy, mascara smudged, hair messy like she'd been running her hands through it in panic. She looked at me like I was a hallucination. "Carlton?" she whispered. I nodded, my voice caught somewhere between rage and concern. "Are you okay?" She opened the door a little wider, but not all the way. I caught a glimpse behind her. Overturned lamp, rumpled bed, Owen nowhere in sight. The TV buzzed with static. A single shoe lay in the middle of the floor like it had been thrown. "I told him I needed space," she said. Her voice was shaking. "He didn't like that." "Where is he now?" She swallowed hard. "He went to the lobby. Said he needed ice. But I think he knew I was calling someone. He took my phone. I only got one message out." I glanced past her again. Something about the way the room looked, like everything had been paused mid-chaos, made my skin crawl. This wasn't just a bad date gone wrong. This was something else. Something dangerous. "We need to leave," I said. "Now." She hesitated. That hesitation was like a slap. "You don't trust me," I said quietly. "It's not that. She looked down at the carpet. "I don't deserve this. You coming here. After everything No, I cut her off. "You don't. But I didn't come for you. I came because I'm not going to let some smug manipulator hurt another woman and walk away like he always does. Even if that woman betrayed me." Her lips trembled. "Carlton, we'll deal with us later. Right now we leave. Before he comes back." We slipped out of the room like criminals. She clutched her bag to her chest like it was armor. I walked a step behind, listening for anything. Footsteps, voices, doors opening. But the hallway remained silent. Too silent. When we reached the elevator, I pressed the button, but it didn't light up. I pressed again. Still nothing. Then I heard a familiar voice from around the corner. Calm, low, with a bitter smirk behind every word. "Going somewhere." Owen. He stood just past the vending machine, arms folded, ice bucket in one hand, no ice in it. His eyes weren't playful now. They were sharp, calculating, and locked on Mira. She flinched. I stepped between them. He tilted his head slightly, amused. "Well, look who came back for his prize. Thought you gave up, man." "She's leaving with me," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Owen laughed, not loudly, just enough to show he didn't take me seriously. "You really think this ends with her running back to your arms? That's adorable. Go ahead, take her." You'll be right back where you started in a month. Miserable, boring, and ignored. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, something shifted. Not in Owen. In her. Mira stepped out from behind me. And what she said next changed everything. Mira stood beside me, inches from Owen, her breath catching like it physically hurt to look at him now. Her eyes flickered, unsure, caught between shame and something colder. Recognition, maybe. Recognition of who he truly was. Of what this whole thing had been. But more than that, she looked like a woman who finally realized she'd climbed into the wrong life, thinking it was a vacation. I'm not going with you, she said. Owen tilted his head, not out of confusion, but control. His smile was slow, practiced. Mira, come on. We've had one bad night. You're overreacting. Don't make this a drama. You said you wanted real attention, remember? I gave you that. No, she said, stronger now. You gave me a performance. A distraction. You fed me exactly what I wanted to hear until I stopped thinking. But this, she motioned between them. This was never real. I see that now. He looked at her, then at me, and for the first time since I met him, the act slipped. His smile twitched. His eyes sharpened. You think you're different? He asked me, voice low. You think you're going to be her savior now? Let me guess. She cries in your arms. You forget what she did, and you two ride off into a second-hand sunset. Is that the fantasy? I didn't answer. My silence wasn't surrender. It was calculation. I watched Mira. Her hand trembled at her side, and I realized she wasn't done yet. I told myself you were exciting, she continued. You made me feel seen, important, desired. But really, I think I was just something to conquer for you. Another box to check. You never saw me. You saw a challenge. And once I stopped being one, you changed. She wasn't crying. That was what struck me most. Not a single tear. Owen laughed once, short and bitter, but it didn't reach his eyes. You both deserve each other. Pathetic. He turned like he was going to walk away. And for a second, I thought that was it. That we'd won, whatever winning meant in a story like this. But then, just as he passed the elevator, he muttered something. You should check her phone, Carlton. I felt my chest tighten. He didn't wait for a reaction. He just walked toward the stairwell and disappeared through the door with a heavy click. Mira exhaled slowly, like she'd just stepped off a battlefield. I turned toward her. What did he mean? She didn't look at me. Her fingers tightened around her purse strap. Mira, I said again, softer this time. What did he mean? I deleted the texts, she whispered. The ones before. But he screenshotted them. What text? She closed her eyes. I told him things. About you. Things I shouldn't have. I complained. I mocked. I said you were weak. Predictable. Safe. I said I missed feeling alive. Each word landed like a bruise. I nodded. I wasn't surprised. I think I'd always known that when she left me emotionally, she hadn't done it quietly. She needed someone else to validate it. Someone to confirm that I was the problem, not her. I guess he saved them to remind me later, she added. Or to punish me if I changed my mind. I didn't respond. We stood there, elevator still broken, surrounded by cheap wallpaper and hotel silence. Both of us knowing there was no coming back from this. Not to the past. Not to what we used to be. Too much had been said. Too much had been written in places we couldn't erase. But something unexpected settled into me then. Not peace, not forgiveness, but clarity. She wasn't the woman I thought I married anymore. And I wasn't the man who needed her approval to feel whole. I'm driving you home, I finally said. You don't have to say anything. But you're not staying here. She nodded, quiet. We didn't talk in the car. We didn't need to. Because something bigger was already happening. Not just between us, but behind the scenes. I had no idea that the screenshots Owen mentioned, they'd been sent to someone I never expected. And the fallout? It was already waiting for me at the front door. When I pulled into the driveway, there was a package sitting on the front steps. Small. Brown. No return address. Just my name in thick black ink. Mira stood beside me, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to fold out of existence. I didn't ask her to come in. She didn't ask if she could. There was nothing left to say. No accusations, no explanations, no awkward promises of redemption. We both knew what the truth looked like now. And it wasn't us. I picked up the box, feeling the weight of it before I even opened it. Inside were printed screenshots. Dozens of them. My name. Myra's name. Owen's number. Texts between them. Intimate, cruel, and personal. My faults cataloged in casual language. My routines mocked. My name followed by laughing emojis. The kind of things you don't forget. But they weren't sent to me. They were CC'd to her employer, to her sister, to our couple's therapist from 2 years ago, and to my mother. Owen had sent them all. Mira sank to the porch railing when she realized it. She didn't cry. She just looked emptied, like someone who had finally reached the bottom of a very long fall. "Why would he do this?" she whispered. I looked up at her, calm now, tired, but clear. "Because he never cared about you. He cared about the control. And the second you stopped being useful to him, he made you a warning for the next." She looked like she wanted to deny it, but she didn't. For the first time in years, Mira was quiet. Not defensive, not bitter, just quiet. I stood there for a moment, thinking about everything. The ring I'd left on that bar table, the broken photo on the stairwell, the way she smiled when she thought I wasn't looking. I realized I had spent so long trying to keep something together that had already come undone. I had been mourning a version of us that never really existed. "I think you should go," I said gently. "Not because I hate you, but because I finally love myself more than your memory." She nodded once, said nothing, walked to her car. I watched her drive away. And then, for the first time in what felt like years, I walked into my house without dragging my past behind me. I made tea. I opened the windows. I turned on music that wasn't sad. I didn't check my phone for hours. And when I finally did, there was a message waiting for me from an old friend I hadn't spoken to in months. Just a simple text. "You free for dinner next week? I've been thinking about you." I smiled, because maybe I wasn't healed yet, but I was healing. And that, for now, was enough. Thanks for watching this full story on Reddit Confessions. If you've ever had a moment where everything changed, a confrontation, a discovery, a turning point, share it in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another unforgettable confession. See you in the next story.